end. And the second end is to reindustrialize our country. We've simply, over the last 20 years and several administrations, had more and more of our industry, our energy-intensive manufacturing go overseas. President Trump is passionate about reindustrializing America, bringing those jobs in towns across America, rural America as well, and to get our economy, workers in our economy, thriving again. I think at the end of the day, we're going to have growing American exports and reindustrialize the country. This is great economic news. What you're seeing right now is the fear and uncertainty as the sausage is being made.
Mr. Secretary, on the executive order expected on coal, you're talking about maybe granting new federal mining rights and promoting coal, maybe reducing other regulations around it. I wonder what type of appetite, what demand you're expecting on this, either for new mining of coal when it's in general been in decline for a while, but also for AI data centers. I mean, all of these companies paying for the build out seem to want cleaner forms of energy and maybe wouldn't necessarily wish to have, coal powered, learning large language models.
Well, let me push back on a couple things. Number one, coal's been growing for 50 years. Demand for coal is an all-time high last year. It'll be an all-time high again this year. That's globally. In the United States, yes, coal's been losing market share to natural gas. That's market forces. Shale revolution brought natural gas prices down so much that natural gas has taken market share from coal in the United States, but not globally. But we need a growing supply of electricity to hit the AI boom and also for this reindustrializing of the United States. If we want to grow America's electricity production meaningfully over the next 5 or 10 years, we got to stop closing coal plants. In the Biden administration, we had almost no growth in electricity production, yet prices went up 25%. That's totally nuts. Under the Trump administration, we want the reverse. We want to see electricity production grow 25% and no price rise. That means we need all the reliable, affordable, secure sources we have, and coal is a central one of those. Coal's not just for electricity. It's also for steel production and cement production. It's for industrial activity.
And what about the environment? I mean, I know the focus here is not necessarily on that, but it is the dirtiest fossil fuel.
Well, dirty is often used two different ways. When it's used for greenhouse gases, it's just a misnomer. They're not dirty. They're essential for life. They do absorb infrared radiation, but that's a separate dialogue. But coal, the way to think of dirty is pollutants. American technology for coal has made scrubbers so that the air coming out of coal plants, it's just a white plume like a natural gas plant. That's just water vapor coming out. So no, coal done right is very clean. And that's what we do in the United States. In fact, the United States pulling back from coal has slowed the diffusion of American coal technology to China and India. I would argue we'd have cleaner air in the United States if we focus more on a strong coal industry here and got American coal technology to remove the pollutants from coal power plants into Asia. That would clean American air, not dirty American air.
Mr. Secretary, you did mention that you want to essentially look at all reliable, domestic, secure sources of energy. Then why the withdrawal of government support for lots of renewables?
Well, look, you hear the most about wind. Wind has universally been a train wreck. Look at United Kingdom, look at Germany, look at Denmark. They've bet heavily on wind, and what have they gotten? A tripling of their electricity prices, a reduction in their stability of their grids, and actually a reduction in the amount of electricity they produce in total. They have deindustrialized in Western Europe. We don't want to do that in the United States. We've been slowly going down that road as well. We want to reverse directions. We want to have affordable, secure, reliable energy so we can reindustrialize America, lower the cost to consumers, and grow the wages and job opportunities for our citizens. That shouldn't be a crazy idea.
I mean, yesterday, the president, when he was talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu, was asked a question about Europe and how Europe is approaching the tariff negotiations. And President Trump said the EU will have to commit to buying $350 billion worth of American energy to get a reprieve from the sweeping tariffs. Is that realistic? And are you involved in those negotiations? It makes sense. They should be buying more of our gas, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. I've had all sorts of outreaches from countries in Asia, in Europe, and elsewhere that are very interested in buying more American energy. Natural gas today is the second largest export in the United States, and it's the fastest growing export in the United States. So absolutely, growing United States energy exports to Europe and Asia and our allies around the world, good for America, good for our allies. Look, I'm not celebrating the deindustrialization of Europe. I'd love them to reinvigorate and lower their cost of energy and grow their economies as well. We're for economic growth around the world, but certainly led by the United States.
Yeah, but my question is what happens, so Russia-Ukraine, if there is an end to the war, the market expectations is those sanctions would come off and Russia would be able to sell energy again to Europe. The infrastructure there is already in place. It's better economics. So I wonder if then that's a competitor for the U.S. selling gas if Russia's back in the market with Europe.
Well, certainly, as I talk to European leaders, one thing they all share is a regret that they bet their energy future on Russia. So I don't think there's a huge desire right now to, if the war is over, we're gonna recount on Russia for a dominant share of our energy supply. I think that's very unlikely to unfold.
And then what about Iran? Wanted to get you on the record on that one, too, because there's an important meeting on Iran nuclear program coming up this weekend. First of all, what are your expectations as far as those sanctions that are in place? And is there a scenario where if they don't make a deal, you will become a tougher enforcer on those energy sanctions to limit their flow of oil?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what happened in the first Trump administration, right? People thought you can't really sanction Iran. Of course you can. And in the first Trump administration, Iranian exports of oil plummeted. Therefore, the money they had to fund terrorists shrunk dramatically, and Iran was less of a troublemaker in our world. They were allowed, that sanctions didn't get removed, but they just stopped enforcing them during the Biden administration. Their oil exports surged, their money from that revenue surged, and the trouble they've caused, you know, from Hezbollah to Hamas to the Houthis, all of these are Iranian-supported groups. And with American energy production, strong American energy production we have today, we have tremendous leverage with Iran. So absolutely, I would expect very tight sanctions on Iran and hopefully drive them to abandon their nuclear program. That's the only way everyone in the world is going to sleep better at night. We cannot have Iran with nuclear weapons.
Thank you for joining us on a myriad of topics, including that executive order on coal, which we'll look for later this afternoon. Chris Wright, U.S. Energy Secretary. Good to see you.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, still to come, copper prices plunging double digits over the past week. The chairman of Freeport-McMoRan helps us break down the move and what it signals about a broader economic downturn.
Plus, watching the health insurers, they are jumping today after a bigger than expected increase in the government's reimbursement rates for Medicare Advantage plans in 2026. Names like Humana, look, jumping 9%, UNH, CVS, among the big winners. We're back after a quick break.
In a letter to shareholders, you wrote that Alibaba had acquired large company characteristics, and you would be going back to seeing yourself as a startup. How important is that mindset?
We have to exist as a fast-moving startup. Large companies move very slow, and it's because the decision-making structure is too complicated. And, you know, to get something approved, you have to go through 19 layers of approval. It doesn't work. And then the next thing is you empower people, especially younger people on the management team that are actually on the front lines, actually letting them make some decisions and letting them make mistakes and train them so that they can recover from mistakes.
Sponsored by the day's top stories driving Wall Street, up-to-the-minute developments, instant analysis, essential business news. At the intersections of power and money, Brian Sullivan joins Kelly Evans. Power Lunch, CNBC.
We speak to the world's most influential people.
I love what I do, and it means so much to me.
From celebrities
When we took a break, I thought that was the end of it.
to the C-suite.
I started on the factory floor, and here I am 35 years later.
The economist and author Dambisa Moyo.
A lot of boards, many of the ones I serve on, went back to the drawing board to say, well, we need to do better here.
He turned a dream into a global brand.
Join the conversation on CNBC.
I see ambition as enriching your entire life, your financial life, your personal life, and the lives of people around you, your community. My ambition is to build people up.
One partnership is bringing technology and modern farming together to advance agriculture and feed a nation.
We are starting with an automation platform. So a system which is controlling relevant machines, processes.
This is our prototype for the precision nutrient injector that interfaces with the Siemens platform that we're building. We're able to store over 100 different types of recipes, and on demand, the machine will actually mix it up and then deliver it to any go bids.
It is in the same moment giving remotely access to Artisan Green at any point of time. They can see what is the status, what is their energy consumption, what is their water consumption.
The Energy Manager module from Siemens allows us to monitor the equipment, and with that we're able to make sure that the equipment's running at its 100% efficacy, and as a result, electricity costs that way.
Sponsored by
Just about 2 hours into trading. Let's go post to post with Bob Pisani for a look at what's moving. Hi, Bob.
Hello there. We are up, but well off of the highs, and a little bit of a fade here. The good news is big cap tech was still leading, so Palantir, Broadcom, NVIDIA, all up nicely, and most of the big names still on the upside. There's Snowflake, but look, we're well off the highs here. It was 137. 140 earlier, so it's coming down here, still on the upside. Same with some of the other ServiceNow software names as well. Banks started very strong, but they too are up, but fading a little bit. Now, you'd think Bank of America, which was, what, 25% off of the highs, have a little more oomph than 1.1%. $37 the high, it's $35.90 right now. You see the same thing, just sort of coming off, still on the upside, but a little bit of the buying enthusiasm going away. I've been watching material stocks a lot. Remember, materials are very much impacted. I'm talking about steel stocks like Nucor because they're hurt by the tariffs. You got increased input costs, supply chain disruptions, reduced demand. And again, look, it's up here, but it was 110 right at the open. Now it's 105. This is what I mean. I mean, you get initial rounds, but there's not a lot of buying power behind that right now. You want to, and here's like Dow Chemical. Dow Chemical started up. It was $29, and now it's down fractionally. So you want to keep an eye on these kinds of things. The question is, how much more buying power is beyond the initial rally right at the open? And it seems to be fairly modest right now. So what we want to look for is the big move that we've had here already. So remember, the S&P 500 yesterday, we were at 4840. At the lows yesterday, and we are now almost 400 points higher. So yes, we've had a big bounce here, but it's quite noticeable. That's 400 points ago was almost 7 or 8% ago. So the market's got to see show me further progress on the tariffs at this point here. So what is next here? Where do we go from here? Obviously, we're going to need some concrete improvement in the trade dialogue. That's what we need to see most of all. We are now coming into earnings seasons, and it is going to be dominated by a lack of visibility. That seems to be the consensus, and that's going to be a real lid on any potential rally here, because we have the potential here, if these tariffs get implemented in even partly the way they're being described, to have lower earnings, and that's going to create more pressure on the market. And then if we start talking about lower economy or even a recession, you're going to talk about a bear market multiple, putting a lower multiple on the market. That's another pressure. So, Sarah, there is that is the biggest threat to the rally right now, to trying to get a rally that's sustainable figuring out where the earnings situation is going to be. And we're going to get Delta, Sarah, tomorrow. Delta's going to be a big one. And, of course, that's the biggest airline out there. We'll have to hear what they have to say about visibility. That'll be the big stock tomorrow, Delta.
I mean, visibility is tough. I think that companies have a lot of air cover to not know. I mean, some of these, especially retail companies, don't know if they're going to have, Mike, 75% hit to earnings or 10% hit to earnings, as I've said.
So for Delta, it's much more about the demand side, but yeah, it's you got to fly by instruments, not by sight.
Right, real-time demand on whether people are planning their vacations after the market plunge and everything else. Time now for a news update. Pippa Stevens has it for us. Morning, Pippa.
Hey, Sarah. The Trump administration plans to fine migrants who defy deportation orders up to $998 per day. That's according to documents reviewed by Reuters. The fines stem from a 1996 law that was enforced for the first time in 2018 during President Trump's first term. Reuters reports the administration is also considering seizing the property of migrants who do not pay the fines. Defense Department officials tell NBC News the Pentagon is considering a proposal to withdraw as many as 10,000 troops from Eastern Europe. The units under consideration are said to be part of the 20,000 personnel the Biden administration deployed in 2022 to countries bordering Ukraine. And Meta is bringing teen accounts to Facebook and Messenger. The option first rolled out to Instagram last September, and it allows only friends to see and reply to their stories and limits tags, mentions, and comments to only people teens follow or who are their friends. Users under 16 also are not allowed to go live on the platform or change any settings without their parents' permission. Sarah, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Pippa. When we come back, the U.S. dollar is coming off its worst month since 2022. Could it be primed for a near-term bounce? We're going to look at what could be next in the currency market as tariffs take hold when we come right back.
CNBC. Live ambitiously.